Harvest. Been away for a few days because necessarily I've had to focus my attention on starting a new job. There's been a lot to do, lots of courses, induction. That's where my concentration must be focused rather than doing this. Now that doesn't mean to say I'm going to stop doing this, but for the time being, I've got. This is important, but work is vitally important. So I'm getting my priorities right. Glad to be back. I've never divulged any information about that particular company other than the fact that it's an aerospace foundry. What I will say is that there's been, in my opinion, because I've been away for 2 years and I've come back with fresh eyes and a different perspective, I'd say there's been a definite change for the better. There's been cultural changes and it feels different, it feels better. There's been improvements, so it's all looking good. What I want to say in this one is that, I've made these videos now for 2 years and I've never come on here and deliberately lied or tried to mislead. What I've done is say what I see based on my life, my ideas, my prejudices and my experiences. Somebody else is going to have a completely different point of view, but I've spoken the truth as I've seen it and experienced it. These are really peculiar times. You don't need me to tell you that. And I've used this video series to describe what I think's going on. Now, what's going to happen is over the next period of time, might be a year, 18 months, possibly 5 years, then there's going to be things that have been so far suppressed, hidden, censored, not talked about, otherwise hidden, like I say. You won't be able to hide them anymore. It will slowly come out what's been going on. It's I've been called, and I'm sure most of my subscribers have, tinfoil conspiracy theory nutter. And is that all you got? Really? Conspiracy, well, there's plenty of conspiracies. I think you're particularly blind or ignorant if you don't think there's such things as conspiracies everywhere. But the way businesses are done, the way companies are run, the way social clubs are done, there's always something going on behind the scenes to suit certain people, isn't there? Theory, no. No, no, no. Why? Because they tell you. The people that are doing these things, they spell it out for you, they tell you. It's only as if you've got to met these ideas up. I'm telling you what I'm doing and I'm showing you, and it's up to you whether you can be bothered to listen. But if you've got eyes to see and ears to hear, and you listen and watch and take it all in, you ain't got to make it up. You ain't got to add your own opinion on top of it. It's all there, I'm telling you. So in the next whatever period of time it'll be, a lot of the things that I've said on here, which I've been ripped to pieces for, and you have as well, I believe they'll become common knowledge as to be true. And then the mockery, not that I'm bothered anyway, but it will stop. I've always said that censorship is a big issue with what's going on. Hands up, everybody here watching this who's left a comment. That's been removed. That comment has been taken off. Not by me, not by the bloke who posted the video, but by the platform. Now, what you've said, because I know, because I've done it myself, has not been misleading. It's not been dangerous. It's not been a lie. But it's an inconvenient truth. It's best if we don't talk about these things, if we're going to keep this thing rolling. That's going to have to stop. That's not the... Telling people tales is the job of the entertainment industry, not the news media. The way I see it. They've kept a lot of stuff suppressed, censored. So the general public who is still living that world whereby they're completely locked into the mainstream media, they could not be bothered to find out their news sources from other places that are more accurate. They're just happy to sit there, to be spoon fed whatever them spoon fed, and they don't really care too much whether there's any truth in it, because as long as it's coming from the channels that they've stupidly put their trust in, they'll believe it, and it feels safe and happy like it always did. There's a lot of stuff, like I say, it's going to come out. There's a lot of people in denial at the minute about different things. I made an analogy in one of my videos years ago. I bought an Alfa Romeo car, an Alfa Sud, and all the motoring journalists and all the journalists on the television like Clarkson and all them, they all says, oh yeah, it's a fantastic little sports car, it's sharp, pin sharp handling, it's got a raspy, rorty, zingy little motor, you know, they made it out to be like a little Ferrari, and I bought one, and I bought a good example of the breed. It wasn't a clapped out, knackered example, it was fit and healthy, and it was a lousy car. Didn't live up to the hype. Didn't live up to the hype. It's unreliable. Didn't drive that well. Not a particularly good car. And yet I praised it and pushed it every time I bought a car magazine, which I did do in them days. They pushed this. It was like, it was as if somebody had praised it once, and people seemed to like that review, and everybody copied and followed suit. But it had no great basis in reality, and I believed it. And when I bought it, my mates laughed at me and says, "You bought a pig in the poke there." I mean, it was, like I said, it was a good example of the breed. It was low mileage and it was in good condition. It was just a stinking car, and I knew. And every time they tried to tell me, I don't want to hear. I'd talk over them. I don't want to know that, because I knew it was a crap car, and I knew I'd been pulled in by the hype, and I'd been led and duped, and I'd been stupid enough to go along with it and buy in to the myth. So, and I'll see that happening a lot just lately. You know, it's again, you classified as being a conspiracy theorist. Well, what if you use official figures? Office of National Statistics, National Audit Office, the November Hotel Sierra official yellow card reporting scheme for adverse reactions. These are official figures, and you use them, and people, they know you're telling the truth, but they'd rather not face up to it. The same as I knew my mate was telling me the truth when they told me that Alfa Romeo was a bag of crap, and I just didn't want to face up to it. I put my money down, and I was living with me decision. I think the economy's going to crash within the next 18 months. I'm not an economist, but you can see it. I mean, £2.5.9. Yeah, £2.5.9, so £2.6 a litre are paid for fuel up the road. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. The price in the supermarkets is going up, and that's going to get worse. Wages don't seem to be going up. There's strikes at the minute because wages are not keeping pace with inflation. Eventually, this system that we've had can't continue, and it's going to crash, and it's been set up and designed to crash. All that money that was paid out in furlough and other things, they're clawing it back one way or another. It's just the whole thing, bad economics, but it's been set up to do this because, in my opinion, from what I've been told and what I can see, and from official sources, it's this great reset. What I'm talking about. This is what it's all about. This is what we've had so far. As far as they're concerned, the people who are in charge, it's already working for them. They're going to reset it with something else, and I think that something else is going to be something akin to, but not the same as, Chinese Communist Party style social credit. You can see the way this is going. There's efforts to get rid of cash. When everything's digital, you're enslaved. When everything's tied into that, like we've seen this with the Canadian truckers. Their government decided the truckers, although they was legally protesting, was persona non grata, so they had their bank accounts frozen. When cash is gone, you're screwed, and this has been part of it. They give it a name, the Great Reset, and build back better. And that's where it's been heading. The last 2 years, as far as I'm concerned, has been a test to see how far people can be pushed, see what they'll tolerate, see what they'll do. It's been one psychological test run for what's coming next. Yes, censorship is going crazy. People are being banned off platforms left, right and centre. They have been for quite a while. It's getting worse, and I think that will increase, because as people start to wise up, the people in charge will say, I'm starting to figure it out now. I was ignorant for a while, but now I'm figuring it out. Ban as many as you can, try and slow it down so that they'll completely wake up. I reckon that will happen. As far as this is concerned, then I'm glad that I never told or advised anybody to do anything, but I'm extremely pleased that I wasn't stupid enough to be suckered into that experiment. For the threat that it was said it was to combat, that to me, that was no threat. And what it seems, from what we can see so far, to be doing to people. Now, this is only been going for 18 months. What's the results going to be in 10 years' time or 5 years' time? You can't say nothing, and you can't say it's not happening based on the official reporting scheme. And people know it is, but they don't want to admit it. Opens too much of a can of worms. The technology behind it wasn't exactly brand new technology, but it was fairly untested. Now, what if I said to you, I've built a light aircraft out of bits behind the flat. I'm going to give it a test flight. Never been flown before. Don't really know what it's going to do, but I know a bit about aeroplanes, and I'm fairly handy with me Donnies here. So I built it. How about jumping in with me, and we'll go flying off over the fields and see what happens? That would be insane. Yeah, people have queued up because they thought, well, if I have this, I'll be able to go in the pub, or I'll be able to go in a jet and get a bloody Benidorm or something like that, without thinking the long-term effects. They ain't bothered to find out what it does, how it works, what the long-term effects will be, even why they've had to have one after the bloody other for something that it's completely unnecessary for. This is herd mentality. Herd mentality. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I'm the sort of bloke who, I'm a stickler for the rules, generally. If the rules are a load of crap and stupid and make no sense and appear to be completely detrimental or dangerous or nonsensical, then I'll stop and question. And that's how it should be. You know, if the white line on the airspeed indicator of an aircraft I'm flying says you do not extend your flaps on this aircraft above 100 knots, then I'll say I'm doing 105 knots, I'll see what happens. It's ridiculous. So you stick to rules and do things what you got to do for the right reasons, but none of this was the right reasons. It was all a bloody deception, and an obvious one, unless you was completely numb-nutted from the start. It was obvious from when they were showing pictures of people falling down dead in the street in Wuhan to the way they was inflating the figures. All in all, 7,000 people or just less over 2 years have died of this. They've made it seem like it's worse. That's no. There's been 92 was a bad year. 2018 was a bad year for people dying of the. But nobody lost their bloody minds over that because they weren't told to. They didn't have 24-hour fear porn being pumped into their living rooms, scaring the bloody living daylights out of them and controlling their behaviour. It was particularly worthy of mention. Now this proves the power of the media. You've got, to me now, it's very broadly, you've got three types of people in this country. You've got the muzzled, and I'll call them satanic ritual compliance muzzles, because I think that's what it is. These are evil people who've made them wear these things to see if they'll do it, to see if they'll dress up in their costume and dance to their little dance. This was never about helping anybody else. It never was. If you've got a stinking cough or a cold, you don't go and visit your nan who's in a care home with ill people. That's obvious and sensible. But all this is just nonsense, and it's been proved in parts of the world where they just don't bother with it. It was just to see how servile and complicit people were, and how they was so easily led. So you've got people who wear it, who now, the ones I'm seeing, are mainly frightened people, very old, frail people, and kids. And they've got that terrified little, like a little bunny rabbit caught in the headlights of a car. They've been frightened. The telly's told them, you ain't going to die, it's going to be a terrible death. Your life's going to go, it's going to be robbed off you. How do you feel about that? And that's what that thing up the corner, that one-eyed bloody monster in everybody's living room has been pumping them with. And you can hardly blame them for, if they're suckered into it like kids and old people are, then you can hardly blame them for believing that. They're absolutely criminal. You've got the ones who are dangerous people, in my opinion. They wear the masks. They've got that, like this, that kind of look, and you've seen it. Don't say you haven't, you've seen it. I've seen it at the dentist with the Karens. It's done something to them. It's evil, it's satanic. I don't know whether it's, I think they can act differently because it's given them some kind of anonymity. I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but what I do know, it's real. And you do see people like that, they've got this wild, manic, dangerous stare in their eyes when they're muzzled up. So you've got them, you've got the frightened. Now, to me, the second group are the most disgusting and reprehensible types, because they know all this has been a scam. They know it's been a load of bull. They know they've been lied to. They know these figures have been inflated. They know how the 28-day rule works. They're found out. They're bothered. They know. But for their own gain, they've gone along with it. They don't care. It don't affect them. Keep checking that. And I suppose we all might have been there at some point in our life. But that's the most frightening of the lot, because you can at least deal with the psychos. These people, because they now know better, they're ignorant. The psychos just go along with it, they bloody love it, they're part of it. The ones who know better, but choose to go along with it, are the most disgusting and awful of the lot, because these are the same type, the same personality types. We've seen history. If they was told to pitchfork kids into furnaces or gas chambers, they'd do it if they was told to do it, as long as they was paid to do it, and as long as they thought they couldn't get into trouble for doing it. As long as there was some gain in it for them, they ain't got too much of a conscience. And that's disgraceful, and there's been plenty of them. In fact, I'd say they make up the bulk of the people these days. They know it's been wrong. They'd rather just go along with it, pretend it ain't happening, keep taking the money. Don't affect us. They ain't knocking on our door, take down a bloody notice. Then you've got us, people, a group, you can call them what you like, aroused by any other name. Truthers, whatever, it's just a name. It's like something I made up, it's a name tagged onto us. Tinfoil like conspiracy theory nutters, if you like. Who cares? I put myself in that group, and it's the most difficult group to be part of. It really is, because you've got to stick to your morals. You've got to be ridiculed when you know you're right, rather than just going along with it. It'd be easier just to say, well, I know I'm right, but I'll just keep my mouth shut. To actually stick your head above the parapet. It don't make you brave. It don't make you macho. It don't make you anything like that. But it takes a lot out of you, and it takes some doing. It takes some doing, especially on a thing like this. It's easy in some ways, but you got to do it because you know you're right. And the alternative is, like I say, just to take no notice and be like everybody else and do what everybody else is doing, and don't take too much notice. We've all learned little things about our personalities over the last couple of years, and one of them is that when it comes to the crunch, initially at the start, I thought perhaps if I'd have kept my old job, I'd have kept my gob shut as well. But I thought about this and analysed it, and I think the answer is, I've come to the conclusion that I wouldn't have just kept my gob shut. I couldn't. Not something like this. I've been lucky. I've been able to go back to my old job. I've had my life turned upside down for 2 years on massive deception. A deception that people have been just only too happy to take part in, which has been a shock for me to learn that about the British population. But it's happened. But there's been people worse off than me. What about the blokes and women who never came back to our place? What about the men and women who committed suicide, who have had their livelihood stripped from them because they've had to find jobs now, or on paying much less, or on the dole? And you might say to yourself, well, who cares as long as it saves a single life? But it didn't, did it? It didn't. And it'd be great if it did, but it didn't. It just caused bloody misery and destroyed the economy, ruined jobs, businesses. The amount of people who had operations for cancer and heart problems, who've died or had their afflictions got worse because they weren't able to have their procedures done when they should have had them done, like my mate Frank. And what you got to say about them people? You following your rules, you didn't save anybody from the but you can bloody make a list as long as your arm about all the people who've had proper treatments for cancer, which are the real killers in this country, who've been denied. So they'll turn it round and say, oh, I'm the reckless, dangerous one, putting people at risk. You've been the ones who've done that. If you've followed this bullshit, we've been tested, and pride comes before a fall, and pride is a sin. But I can take some solace in the knowledge that I was prepared to do the right thing, whatever the cost, rather than just go along with it. I know a lot of my subscribers would as well. All prayers are answered. I've ended up with my job back after 2 years. It's going to take a while to get back on track, but I know some people deny Christ. That's your choice. What you can't ever do is say you weren't told. It's your choice. If you choose to go to hell because you say, I don't exist, it's a load of bull, then that's your choice. You was told. You made that conscious decision yourself as an adult. You can lead an horse to water, you cannot make it drink. But the Lord has brought me through this. I was lucky and blessed to find that job with Clark Solutions. Well, I don't just find it. The Lord brought me there through different people. Neil, you was one of the primary movers in helping me save my life, and I'll be forever grateful. I had a sort of bloke who's very often is able to show me gratitude, but I am, and I'm grateful for everybody at Clark's. They know what's going on. This 2 years has brought me closer to the Lord. Again, some people want to mock and scoff. Let them. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. Proverbs 14. Let them. But the Lord's brought me through this, the power of prayer. He gave me what I asked for, not when I wanted it, but when it was the right time for him to give it me back. I'm going through a period now, a transition period in a short while, where I'm going to go from what I went on previously and what I'm currently on, which is weekly pay, onto monthly pay, and there'll be a gap. And because my savings have been depleted because of this, again, it was another stress factor. I've been worried about a tax return. I was struggling to file with Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. I went back to Clark's yesterday because I'm being fined for not filing it. I've been trying to, I've got proof. I made a provable effort to try and file this tax return. Couldn't do it on their system. Young lady who works at Clark's helped me out yesterday with assistance from the accountant, and we managed to resolve it. Now the fine was £100, which is neither here nor there now, I suppose. You know, if I found £100 on the floor, I'd pick it up. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not too bad. But it turns out, as things look now, it looks like the tax office owes me nearly £1,300, not the other way around. And this will bridge the gap between my weekly pay to my monthly pay at the time I need it, not when I wanted it. So the power of prayer does work. It does. The Lord looks after you. It's difficult sometimes to keep the faith. I know of this. But since my baptism, before my baptism, I considered my faith. I was building up to it. Is this the right thing to do? I'm still a sinner. I still make mistakes. I'm a man. I'm human. I'm not perfect. There was only ever one born perfect and then nailed him to the cross. I am not perfect. So I louse up. I make mistakes. I'm a sinner. But I decided to try to keep my life on the right path, the narrow path. And when I did and got baptised, in some ways I've had certain spiritual attack, which I was briefed about and I knew anyway. But the Lord has shone his blessings onto me since then, and before then he was always watching out for me. He was always there. And when I was going through the worst of it, it was difficult, it was dark, it was the valley, the shadow of death for a while. That was the thoughts I was getting. I got through it by considering the book of Job. If anybody's struggling at a minute, I've two things I'd advise them to do: the Gospel of John and the book of Job. When you've read that, consider Job's predicament and what he went through, and keeping Job in mind. And also Noah, because they all laughed at him. They all laughed at him. What are you doing this for? You know, and he kept the faith. He trusted. He believed. And it brings you through. And it's something that you cannot make people do. All you can try and do is turn them in the right direction. So I'm going to leave you with that. The devil will send people into your life to try to turn you away from the Lord. Circumstances contrived by the devil, who is the God of the world, will try to turn you away from God. You'll have thoughts in your head trying to whisper you and turn you away from God. It'll all try to turn you away from God, and you should turn towards God. I seem like a selfish bloke because I make these videos talking about my life. You've got to put God first, and I do in my life, whether it's obvious or not, but I do. And you've got to do the same. These are rough times you come up. If you think it's been bad for the last 2 years, this is a period of grace we're currently going through. Like I say, the good things are, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that things have been revealed. Censorship, they can't keep censoring everything forever. Things that we've been speaking about and I was speaking about for 2 years will become common knowledge. You can't brush it off as tinfoil hat nonsense anymore. And it's going to be a shocker, especially if it turns out that this is actually killing a lot of people. The deception will be revealed, and I'm glad these videos of mine are a matter of public record now. And I've said them, I'll stand by them. And I'm either going to be proved right or wrong. I wouldn't have done them unless I'd have thought I was going to be proved right. But there's always people still in the dark, and when the light comes in, I'll be vindicated, and all the people who've supported me watching this, all the people who haven't supported me, I sod you. Very happy for you, live your life, do it how you want to do it. You're wrong, and I think in your gut, the fact that you got to attack means you know you're wrong. But whatever you think that you've been going along with has been the truth. I think you're going to be proven wrong, and all these things are going to be outed in the goodness of time when the Lord says there will be. So just for today, I'm going to leave it there. This is a long one today. This is 30 minutes. And I'll say to you, God bless.